Okay, welcome to the October 22nd meeting of Programs and Services. Joining me, at least at the start of the meeting, is Counselor Julia Malicki from Ward 3, Counselor Lyle Baker from Ward 7, Counselor Stephen Farrell from Ward 8, and it looks like Counselor John Oliver is joining us now from Ward 1. I am Counselor Humphrey, Vice Chair and chairing this meeting from Ward 5. And we're joined as well by not only members of the public, but some of our nominees for certain positions, some of our other commission members, I presume, here to observe, and also Mr. Lee from the Law Department, who will presumably be speaking to us a little bit in just a few minutes about some pending home rule petition items. So with that, let us get underway. We're going to go in order here, starting 284-25, appointment of Laxmi Rao to the Council on Aging. Uh, Go ahead, please. Tell us a little bit about why you are applying for this and what you're hoping to do as part of our council.
Oops.
Hello.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. My name is Lakshmi Rao. I've been a resident of Newton for over 40 years. Our children have been to Newton schools, and I'm happily aging here. I've turned 74, and I am very proud to live in Newton and avail of a lot of the services, mostly because I think I've made it a point to get to know what is available through newsletters and through the Cooper Center activities. But what I would love to do is to expand the resources that we already have to a wider segment of our society, for people who are living alone, for people who are afraid of driving to the Tai Chi classes because they don't have transportation. So my goal really is to make the existing resources go a longer distance, but also to encourage people to be more participative in this wonderful city that we have, from a health perspective, from managing their finances, from managing their everyday routines, and also seeing whether there are intergenerational resources we can pull together. So I'm very excited. I'm very energetic, as you can see. And I never thought I would age, but I look at aging more as a transition between finishing long years of work, spending time with peers and grandchildren, and also to give back to this wonderful community. I don't think we appreciate enough how much the city does and is and can be if we all pull together. So I'm an engineer. I've done a lot of construction type activities, energy activities, but I want to spend my time in a critical sphere as our demographic is aging. So thank you. If I have the opportunity, I hope to do justice to that work.
Can I ask if it's possible for you to put your video on? I'm seeing
I'm trying.
Well, in any case, do any of the other counselors have inquiries? Oh, there we go. We can see you now. Thank you. Do any of the counselors have inquiries for Ms. Rao? Counselor Farrell, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate this. Pardon me. Ms. Rao, I have been asking other nominees for the Council on Aging, and I would like to ask you and the other nominees today. I have a particular interest after listening to the superintendent of schools talk about a very successful program, I think, with the YMCA of having seniors work with students after school. And I just, in a general way, would like to know what your thoughts might be about that. not just at the Cooper Center, but maybe encouraging different programs around in the neighborhoods to have seniors working with students in after-school programs. Thank you.
Here, just a moment. We'll unmute you there.
Oops. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, Councillor Farrell, I think that's a wonderful opportunity, and maybe it's something we don't tap into enough because there are two ends of the aging spectrum. But I do know that in my own university, we tried to do this in the city of Cambridge, where you try to get the students and pair them up with seniors in the city. And on many dimensions, there is connection that's possible. There's wisdom to be exchanged, and there's the youth energy and optimism to be shared. So I think if it's the why, that's one good thing. But even at the Cooper Center, I was talking to somebody about conversation, language skills. There's also, the ability to meet on weekends and maybe work on certain aspects of each other's lives. So I think it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity, and we should really tap into that resource. Newton South, Newton North, particularly, even on the energy side, there are many dimensions on which they can share each other's viewpoints and abilities.
Thank you. And I will look forward to your continuing that enthusiasm with your appointment. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Baker, did you have a question?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get my camera to work right here.
Your camera's good.
Okay.
I don't know if any of the other councilors have questions. This is a Ward 6 nomination, I believe, so we don't have a Ward 6 member on at the moment, I don't think, so someone else can move to approve.
I'm happy to move it.
All right, approval moved by Councillor Malachy. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? No? Okay, I believe that's 5-0. And the next step in this process is that this will go to the full city council at the next meeting, presumably be approved there without any discussion or debate, so you don't need to attend that. And then they will let you know when you can get started. You are welcome to stay with us for the other remaining nominees if you choose, but also it's okay if you have other things to do and you want to hop off. That's fine as well.
Well, thank you very much for making the time and for including me. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, item 288-25, appointment of Gloria Mastrocola Gavras to the Council on Aging. If you want to go ahead, Gloria, and talk a little bit about what you're hoping to do on the council, that would be great.
Unmute myself. I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman and the rest of the committee. Hello, for many of you I am familiar with. I'm a 30-year resident of Newton. I'm a retired lawyer. I've been active in the community for several decades, serving as board chair in a few nonprofits, as well as past commissioner on other boards and commissions here in the city by a few of the past mayors have been appointed. So I want to thank you for the consideration, and I look forward to serving on this board. I have often had a soft spot for older residents and seniors, and I'll be one soon enough. So my parents lived to be about 93 and 94 respectively, and we were lucky enough to provide them the independence and a sense of community and support that they required, but not everyone is so fortunate. And I really feel that our older residents built this community. We owe them a lot of respect. They were the volunteers, the city workers, our neighbors, our small business owners, our coaches. And I'm really interested in serving in this capacity right now. I have the time, and I hopefully want to support our older residents with thoughtful discussions on this committee about the programs and services that this city can offer. Obviously, we're doing a good job with assistance, with our social services and providing case management as needed. And obviously, there's transportation issues that always are challenging our city's infrastructure and moving our residents around, and particularly our older residents, but also providing them the recreation and the entertainment and opportunities to build community for them. Loneliness and isolation is one of their biggest challenges as people age. And I hope that the OAS and the city can provide this protective umbrella for them to continue to build community amongst each other and with younger residents. And Councilor Farrell, I really love your idea of providing mentoring relationships and intergenerational opportunities for people to continue to work together and provide wisdom and skill sets that they may not have opportunity to do right now. So I hope to have this opportunity to serve, and I look forward to working with the council and the board to furthering the needs of our older residents.
All right, thank you very much. And Councilor Farrell, I assume that answered the question you were anticipating asking.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's yeah.
Councilor Baker.
An appropriate point, because Ms. Jarvis is a resident of Ward 7. I'd be delighted to remove this item. The only, I guess, question I have is that the new Cooper Center will be a really magnificent facility, but I think the opportunity that you described involves a kind of outreach to people who may not actually be involved in the center very much, or could benefit from the services of the city in some other way than the center itself. But you've described a number of those. So I just want to encourage you to think about the sort of extra building, or I don't know what the right term is, but non-facility based activities that can be really of value to the community.
All right, thank you, Councilor Baker. And Councilor Farrell, did you have a different question?
And just I wanted to thank both Ms. Rao and Ms. Gavis for volunteering to be on these commissions. And I would like to second what Councilor Baker has just said about looking for opportunities outside of the center, because young people can't necessarily get there. But I do think there's great opportunities for many senior citizens who don't need such intensive support, but would like to be engaged with the community. So thank you again for volunteering to serve and for responding to the question.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the committee?
I just have one.
Okay.
This is a candidate who has served in multiple capacities for the city, and I just think it's an exemplary record to recognize and continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Okay, Councilor Baker has moved approval on this nomination. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? That is 5-0 again. Thank you very much, and we'll move on to the next item. Okay, we have item 290-25, appointment of Sam Takeff to the Council on Aging. Sam, please go ahead and tell us about why you're applying for this and what you're hoping to work on.
Sure. Thank you for having all of us. I have to follow these two incredibly eloquent women, so bear with me. I was not so prepared for this, but I have been serving sort of informally, coming to Council on Aging meetings for the past year or so. I am a Newtonville resident. I live right Lowell and Austin near the Star Market, and most people will see me every day holding court with my French Bulldog, who is, we've done a lot of training originally 10 years ago to do therapy dog and work with older adults and really people of all generations, just bringing people together. So I know a lot of my neighbors that way, and I'm fortunate to be right down the street from the new Cooper Center. So that is something personally exciting for me, to be spreading the word. My background, sort of multiple directions I'm coming at this. My day job, I have a company running an online fitness and mindfulness company. And so we're actually in the Newton Library. You can sign up for free. And we also work across the country with the VA and specifically serving veterans, employees, and staff, and thinking about how do you serve whole communities of people across ages with lots of different demographics coming together. So I'm thinking about how am I serving communities? How do you educate a community where people learn differently across generations, across socioeconomic areas? And so that's sort of my everyday thinking hat. And then just generally, I am someone who has always been interested in public service in any sort of way I can. So my first unofficial official job after college was in New Hampshire, starting the town energy committees more than 20 years ago now. And it was going across all of the sort of towns and cities in New Hampshire and just talking to people and getting to know people and moving things forward that seemed a little bit novel. And now, of course, you know, an energy committee is not a weird thing, but so that is just for me. I'm always looking for things I can do to help and ways I can participate. And I'm also just looking forward. I have a small business using marketing skills, and I love sharing resources as well. So whether it is lists of resources or unfortunately spending a little bit too much time on the Facebook forums and the Nextdoor and seeing what's happening, I like to make those connections for people, especially ones who aren't necessarily always online or able to get out into the community. So brevity is not my strong suit. I'll pause.
No, thank you very much. Councillor Farrell?
Oh, thank you very much, Chair. I appreciate it. And thank you, Ms. Taggart, for volunteering to be on the commission. And I like the last notion you were talking about making connections. And again, my interest and concern, and I think a lot of us, about trying to engage more seniors who are up and about and alert and eager to participate in working with young people. I've been very encouraged by the superintendent's notion that there are successful programs where seniors can mentor and work with younger people. And I hope you think that's an interesting idea and that you will work with your colleagues to on the commission to try to help some programming like that occur. Love to hear your thoughts. And again, thank you for volunteering.
Thanks. I've been a beneficiary of that in my well, I'll give my sibling credit. My brother, as a small child, learned how to play chess at our local senior center. It was a dedicated program and it worked really well. And then here in just over the border, my family was very involved in the creation of Newbridge. And one of the things with Newbridge was we were going to do school children have sort of intergenerational as part of the design originally of the entire concept. And I think that generally has worked well over time. I think there's so many different opportunities there. I mean, even within one of the things that I'm always thinking about is we actually have great resources, great programming that already exists rather than just creating new things. It's how do we actually market those programs to market them to people of different generations. I think there's a lot of opportunity to do that just, you know, just takes a little bit of ongoing effort and talking to more people. And so that's something already I'm thinking about. And yeah, I mean that it's we should be a village. We should not be separated by age for sure. So to me, it seems a no-brainer, but you know, it's also just putting in the work and making it happen. And with all of our competing priorities, making sure that we're getting a little bit of everything and should be able to do it. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm sort of in the middle of generations, but I also like there are so many people. The window of senior where it's like 55-year-old who might have a child in the preschool versus the other end of the spectrum. We're already dealing with older adult services with such a range that, you know, I think of technology for aging of we are all aging at every age. So I'll stop there, but yes,
Thank you
the
very
short
much.
answer.
Okay, thank you all very much, and I hope that you will encourage your colleagues on the council to consider this idea and try to make more opportunities available for seniors. But thank you very much.
All right. Before we get to a vote on this one, since it's the last of these ones, I just wanted to check in. Ms. Murray, thank you for being here representing the aforementioned Department of Older Adult Services. Did you have any comments or anything to say on any of these before we proceed?
No, just here to support them all and really looking forward to this great, new invigorated group to take on, and all the people who will, continue on to be supporters who've been part of it in the past. So thank you for considering them all.
All right, thank you so much. Any further comments before we take a motion on this? And I think it's going to require a motion from somebody because I believe this is Ward 2 and we don't have our Ward 2 person here. So Councilor Farrell?
Happy to make that motion.
Okay, Councilor Farrell has moved approval. Any further comments on this? No? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? I believe that is another 5-0 vote. Thank you all again to the nominees for your time and your willingness to serve. And as we said, these will all proceed to the next full council meeting, and you don't need to attend that meeting. Now we're going to move on to some legal items. So you're certainly welcome to hop off at this point, as it's probably not of great interest to most of you.
Thank you. And
Although
good
it's of
night.
great interest
Thank
to
you.
our attorney, Mr. Lee.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Okay. This brings us to a couple of items. I assume you'd like them taken up separately, but maybe you want them together. I can do it in either way, Mr. Lee, to let me know whether you prefer them together or separate.
I think your inclination is correct, Mr. Chair. We should take them separately. I would suggest doing 301-25 first and then 295-25 second.
Okay, we will do it in that order. So 301-25, requesting a home rule petition. This one specifically is requesting permission to change the penalty maximums for certain violations of local ordinances up to $2,000, and then have a possibility for local control over future increases for inflation. Mr. Lee, please tell us about this proposal and why the administration feels it's necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the proposal itself is fairly straightforward. It's as you stated, which is it will allow the city to increase the maximum amount of fines that it can impose for ordinance violations up to $2,000. Now, it's important to understand the current framework that the city has to operate under, and these are prescribed by statute. And what I'm talking about is the current maximums. Generally speaking, under Massachusetts law, the city only has the ability to impose fines of up to $300 per violation. That has been the number for many, many decades. It has not been increased. The statute has not been amended to increase it. So what the proposal does is it seeks to bring or give the city the ability to impose a fine amount that will hopefully actually create compliance, right? That's the main purpose of fines, to get compliance with the ordinance. And what we noticed, and we being ISD and the law department and other departments that have to deal with certain fine violations, there are particular violations that $300 just doesn't seem to be enough. There are people who violate the ordinance, oftentimes repeatedly, and the $300 are just factored into the cost of doing business. And it makes them coming to compliance more difficult than it should be. So that's one of the reasons. I do want to note that currently the only city in Boston or municipality in Massachusetts that has this authority is Boston. They received the authority just last year via special legislation, just like we're seeking. And it's also very important to note that the increase in any ordinance fine amount has to be prescribed through ordinance, meaning that the ordinance itself needs to state what that fine amount is. $2,000 is the ceiling. So between the city council and the mayor, they would have the discretion to set it, at any level up to 2,000. So once if the special legislation is approved, the mayor is authorized to send it to the general court. The general court approves it. Then we would have to come back with specific ordinance amendments and proposals for the city council to consider in order to actually effectuate any increase. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions with regards to the proposed special legislation.
Yeah, one quick question is just, you mentioned about the existing state law specifying $300 and that it hasn't been updated in a while. Was that number ever based on something specific, or was that at the time an arbitrary number as well? Like, does the law say, oh, this is supposed to be based on some sort of formula or something like that?
The law doesn't say what it's based on. There is no formula. It is just a static number. I've not looked at the legislative history, so I'm not sure if there was, great thought put into why it was that amount. I do know that it's the amount that's been in place for an incredibly long time. I don't know exactly when, but I know decades.
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking because I know that with the rules about fees, that those are based on alleged cost for something, whereas this is just sort of meant to be I guess, a coercive fine. Okay, we'll start with Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I very much support this. There is legislation pending that the Mass Municipal Association is supporting for a change in the general law to raise it up to $1,000. This amount was originally $200. It became $300, I think, in 1985, for some period, as you say, decades. I'm not sure the exact time, but certainly $300 then and $300 now are very different numbers in terms of their assurance of compliance. So I'm very glad to see this proposal come forward, and I hope it succeeds at the State House, but it certainly deserves our support. And we still, as the Law Department has pointed out, reserve in the city the ability to choose the amount under the ceiling. It doesn't require us to go there, but it gives us some capacity to deal with some of the people who view this as a way of paying a bill as opposed to changing behavior.
I assume on that note, what you've said is that if this were to be granted by the state, it's not that all of the fines would automatically rise to 2,000,
That's
right?
correct.
There would still
I mean,
need to
I
be
think we
action.
have to make those
Okay.
decisions.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate because certain things are not, $2,000
not
level
all,
offenses.
not all of the civil fines merit that, but certainly we want to have the ability to make that judgment, not have it just arbitrarily limited.
Okay.
So
Councilor,
I'll move it whenever it's appropriate after others have spoken.
sure. Councilor Oliver.
Great, thank you, Chair. I'm just curious, like, remind me if you can, Mr. Lee, like, I know that there are probably multiple places where the city has gone to $300, fine per instance. I can think of like zoning infractions, things of that nature, but are there other examples of places where we see this fee kind of crop up? If you wouldn't mind reminding me of a couple, I'm just curious.
Sure. So then we see it pop up in a lot. Well, $300 a day is imposed for many of our ordinance violations, but in terms of what often becomes real enforcement, where we're trying to get compliance, off the top of my head, there's leaf blower violations, there's short-term rental violations, there's historic preservation ordinance violations. Those are the three that popped in my head readily, where we do have to actually go after fines, and it's $300 a day now.
Right. All right, I concur with Councilor Baker. I think this is probably something that is long overdue. But if Boston is going to blaze a trail for us as of last year, I'm really interested to see where we could take this and how we could utilize it as more of a carrot, not a stick. But thank you.
All right, and that brings us to Councillor Farrell. I know this is one of your passion topics.
Oh, thank you very much, Chair. Indeed, it is. I'm just interested to hear when I heard the phrase, it's to gain compliance rather than paying a bill. I'm not entirely certain what that means. If we're going to have fees and fines, at what point do we say, okay, you have to pay? And I don't know whether that determination is something that we need to understand before we agree to this. Actually, that's not true. I agree to this no matter what that is. I think we need to raise the level. But at some point, I would like to understand the conversation about whether this is used as a carrot, and what does that mean, and when does it become the stick? The second part of that is there are, as I understand, at least 2 instances where entities are being fined at a per diem rate of $300, and but they're not being required to put that money in any sort of an escrow account, until there's a determination about whether it can be court or other way, whether there's a determination of who's right, who's wrong, and should they pay it in full. And my concern about that is, in one instance at least, I have a pretty good sense that if the defendant loses the court case for the city, with the city, then the city is going, I find it hard to believe that the defendant is going to turn around and say, oh, before I go bankrupt, I'm going to pay the $300,000+ that I owe the city for these fees. So I don't know if it's part of this conversation or not, but I would really like to understand the point of these fees. When do we say, okay, clearly your behavior is not going to change, so you're going to start paying these fees? And if so, how do we make certain that the money is in fact paid? And I guess I'll stop there. I mean, the 2 instances I'm thinking of, well, I won't say it. There are 2 instances where there's significant money engaged, and then there's the one with another one that's it's only about $300,000, but to lose that money and not be able to protect it, so that when a decision is made, if the defendant wins, they get it with interest, and if the city wins, then we get it with the interest. But so I'd just like to know the distinction and how we enforce that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, so if I may answer that, with regards to the methods of collection and putting any funds in escrow and things like that, I think that's more appropriate for the next item, because that special legislation that's proposed is specifically about methods of enforcement, and I can get into it there. So I'll hold on talking on that particular subject. The other item that you're talking about with regards to, how much this increase and what it is that I was talking about with regards to how people who are violating the ordinance consider it. What I was trying to say is, for example, leaf blower violation, right? We've seen certain businesses that will take the $300 a day fine and simply calculate it in the cost of business and continue to do the violation. Right. So what I meant by this increase would help address that is it's fairly, practical. It's easy to ignore $300. Not so much maybe once it gets to $1,000 or $1,500. It's to make sure that we're getting their attention in a meaningful way that will then enforce compliance. Now, the other piece of it, though, that's really important to know, and I believe you all know this, is that the city is not in the business of, fines are not to make money. It's not a revenue source for the city, right? It's when there's an ordinance violation, fines are imposed in order to, in a punitive measure to an extent, but then also, of course, like I mentioned, to require compliance, require remediation, whatever the violation is. And that's really important to know, because the city, we don't collect fines every time they're issued. We look at them in objective manners, but also on a case-by-case basis. What I mean by that is, for example, if we have someone that has a zoning violation, and many times it really is objectively obvious that it was a mistake, It was like, the first violation that they've done. And we issue them the notice. And it takes them a couple weeks to get back. It takes a couple months to actually get the plans together for remediation, but they're responsive. We don't seek to collect fines in those circumstances usually. Fines and the actual enforcement actions for collection are reserved for those individuals that are truly not following the city ordinances. The ones that are, doing multiple violations, ignoring requests for remediation. And I'm talking about the ones that like really start to add up. The ones that are smaller, like for example, you forgot to shovel the sidewalk. We issue that because that's always just on a one-time basis. But I'm talking for zoning violations, historic ordinance violations, things like that. So again, there's discretion there amongst the departments that are charged with enforcing the ordinances. And we utilize that discretion in a very fair way. And I'll explain a little bit more the reasoning with that when we get to the next item with regards to how enforcement is done.
I appreciate that. I guess I personally don't understand how you expect to change behavior if we're not going to, in fact, make the fines real, no matter whether they're $300 or $2,000. And the threat of the fine is one thing, but if people know that they can do something 2 or 3 times and will never collect, I don't understand why you even bother to do it. If it becomes known that we're not going to follow through on this.
So I have to push back against that, Councilor Farrell. That's just not true. We are in court on a fairly regular basis enforcing these fines. We do collect them under the circumstances, like I said, when using our discretion, it is appropriate. And we are getting paid and we are getting compliance.
Okay, I guess I would like to understand that better because I have heard right here tonight that it's a mechanism to gain compliance, not to. And I'm okay with the city not wanting to raise money from this, but I think I don't understand the value of it if there is no enforcement, and I'm glad to hear there is. But maybe the second part of my concern will be addressed when we go to the second issue. So thank you at the moment.
Okay, Councillor Maliki.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll have questions on that in the next item too. But I just wanted to understand, this would allow us to impose a fine per day up to $2,000 now. The ability to raise it in the future, does that just mean that we have the ability to say we had a $500 fine for noise violation or whatever instead of 300, that we could increase it up to 800, 1,000, 2,000, whatever over time, but not we'd still be capped at the 2,000, or does it mean we could increase the $2,000 cap over time?
No.
So I think it's going to be easiest if I explain the 2 aspects of the special legislation, and I think that'll answer your question. So the first one is that the city will have the authority, if the special legislation is passed, to increase the fine amount for any ordinance violation up to $2,000. How that gets effectuated is there needs to be an ordinance amendment that allows that fine to attach to the ordinance violation. So then that's how it would be effectuated if the special legislation is passed. Now, with regards to the $2,000 ceiling, that's the second part of the special legislation, which is it's requesting authorization that $2,000 ceiling every 5 years increases. It's going to be increased, or at least how it's proposed, and it's following what Boston did and was granted, is that it's going to be increased to account for inflation tracking the CPI.
Okay.
And what that means is, how it would operate is, let's say, for example, that the maximum amount of a fine for any violation is $2,000. And then 5 years goes by and that $2,000 ceiling that we were capped at gets increased. Then there would have to be another ordinance amendment to further increase it.
Okay, so each time every 5 years when the cap is increased to reflect inflation, we would have to go through each of our ordinances and explicitly increase the fine if we wanted to at that time.
That's correct.
Okay. And is this the structure that Boston's using then?
That's right.
Here, and are we all going to be on the same? Any other municipalities that want to do something similar? Are we all going to be on, I don't know, 2025, 2030, 2035, or?
I can't say what the other municipalities would do.
Okay, but basically 5 years after this takes effect, we would have the option, and based on CPI. Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm really excited about this. I mean, there's so many things going on that $300 just doesn't do it. Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilor Baker.
No, I just want to respond to Councilor Farrell's point. I think that the difference between collection and the imposition is that the law department is, as I understand it, tried to be selective about the situations in which it does actually go to collect a penalty. They're trying to use the ability of a significant fine is that people comply for it without paying it because they'd rather do the conduct than pay the bill. But if there are cases where there are fines that can be imposed and are imposed, I think the department's view, as I hear it, is to look selectively at those cases to see whether this is an innocent mistake in effect, or whether this is in effect someone is a true scofflaw and which the penalty is merited in full. Maybe Mr. Lee can elaborate that later, but that's my impression.
I would also add, I think that the importance of discretion on that side, I mean, part of it's just the basics of that it's expensive to go to court or whatever to deal with these things if it is something that you can gain compliance after a very short period of time. But I think the bigger thing is having discretion is important because otherwise we're going to all be getting yelled at about, why did my Nana in her 90s get, really dinged with an enormous fine on something she didn't understand, or maybe she was, had dementia and didn't realize she wasn't in compliance with something, or that she had missed a bill, right? So I don't think this is about discretion to give corporations a free pass or something like that. So I think
Right.
it is important to have some wiggle room, but as Mr. Lee said, we are about to get to the next item shortly, where we will be talking about a pretty significant change in our ability to collect on these, which I think could make a huge difference here.
Right.
Okay, I believe Councilor Baker had moved approval on this item. I don't see any other comments on this one from anybody. I'm certainly also in favor of this change. And I'm glad that it gives us the flexibility as a council to set these at various appropriate levels, depending on the violation and that kind of thing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Doesn't sound like it. So 5-0. And that brings us to our next and final item, 295-25 request for a home rule petition. And this one is Her Honor the Mayor requesting a home rule petition that will allow the City of Newton to impose a lien on real property in Newton for any charge, fee, or fine that is not paid by the applicable due date. And it doesn't say there, but I'm assuming it says somewhere, I think it says somewhere that it's not saying we have to impose a lien, but that's an option, again, because there are different situations where that might not be as appropriate.
That's correct, Mr. Chair, and I'm kind of jumping around, but to put a finer point on that, under the proposed special legislation, the City Council, through ordinance amendment in conjunction with the mayor, would actually have to specify exactly which charges, which fees, and which fines can be liened.
Oh, okay, interesting. So that makes sense, because you probably wouldn't put a lien on a property for a leaf blower violation, for example. I see you meaning we, the council, not you, the law department. Yeah. Councilor Baker, I see you have a hand up. I don't know if that's a residual hand or if you had a comment about this. You're on mute right now.
It's actually a residual hand, but I do have a comment about it. I do think
Okay.
that, again, this is very appropriate. And I'm just a little unclear, Mr. Lee, is this authority Boston has too, or is this new for us?
No, the only two communities that I'm aware of that have this authority are Somerville and Watertown. Somerville from 1994 and Watertown last year, 2024.
Okay, but we have precedent, so that's what I want to be clear about. But it's different precedent. Thank you. Yep. And I'll support this or move it whenever it's appropriate.
Yeah. Before we get to Councilor Farrell's question, Mr. Lee, did you have any general comments you wanted to make about this item?
I do, Mr. Chair. I think it's important to understand how things work now and exactly what this change is. And how it works now is critically important to understand to address some of the questions that were posed by the last item. And what I mean by how it works now is how do we actually collect fines, right? The city under ordinance, we impose fines, $300 a day for the day from the date of the violation. And sometimes it gets, fairly high, depending on what the violation is, how long it's been there for. The only mechanism under law that the city has to collect fines, well, technically there's two. You know what? I'll talk about both so that you guys have the full picture. One option is called non-criminal disposition, which is basically civil ticketing. Non-criminal disposition, you issue a ticket, every day there's a fine, and then there's an appeals process by which the person who's allegedly in violation can appeal it to the district court. The kicker is if that person that violated it ignores the ticket, doesn't appeal it, or even does appeal it, and then there's a district court decision that they actually have to pay it. If they don't pay it, the city has to resort to the only other mechanism that we have to collect fine violations, which is criminal complaint. Under statute, in order to collect the violations, if someone's simply just not paying it, our only mechanism is to file a criminal complaint in district court. And then through a criminal action, there's a probable cause hearing. There's a the word is escaping me, arraignment, and then we proceed with criminal trial in order to actually have them found guilty of the violation, and then the court would determine the fines. There are a lot of issues with that process. However, it's the only one we have. One is the severity of it, right? It's a criminal complaint, and we do use it selectively. We've used it more so in the last several years for enforcement from things ranging from zoning code violations, historic violations, leaf blowers. Those are ones that seem to come up a lot. And one of the other problems is that even though, let's say, fines have accrued for many, many days, the court has the full discretion with regards to how much the city actually will receive from it. And the court sits in equity, and we've seen from many of these proceedings when it's even a leaf blow or something like that, where, in our opinion, the fines were properly imposed, we should be collecting all of it. The court would make a decision and say, no, that's too much, we're going to knock it off, or we're going to give them a break this first or second time, or something along those lines, right? So we have to be very selective, very strategic in how we utilize that tool, even though it's the only tool that we have. So what the change in this proposed special legislation is requesting is the ability to lien a real property for a fine, fee, or charge. So it does also include municipal fees that are unpaid. We're less worried about that. We generally don't have an issue with the fees being unpaid because whatever they would need for the project closeout or license, they just don't get it. And then there's additional fines that go along with it. So it's really the ability to lien the fines that would add another arrow to our very limited quiver in terms of being able to really enforce these violations. We believe that it's going to be more meaningful to the person who is violating the ordinance. It will be an attachment on their property. It will be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And then if they do not pay it, it can be committed to their tax bill, just like an unpaid water or sewer bill. With that said, of course, we're still going to utilize our discretion to do it strategically. We are seeking compliance. If it is an individual who has consistently been non-compliant, is not working with the city, is repetitively doing the same sort of violation, yes, we will collect the same way we do now. This would just be a very effective mechanism to do so. So with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilor Baker, or no, Councilor Farrell.
I have a question, but I'll yield to my colleagues.
Councilor Farrell first, and then Councilor Baker.
Thank you. It's my eternal question, I guess, for the past 4 years. What's wrong with escrow accounts
We can't do it.
that are non-prejudicial? Is that the city has determined that there should be a fine, and by that reckoning, the person should start to pay it. If they go to court and they're judged to be innocent, then they get the money back with interest. I don't understand why we can't do that. I mean, and there may be a very good reason, but
Councilor Farrell, we don't have the legal authority to do that. We do not have the legal authority to force someone to put money into an account.
does anybody in government have that authority?
I know that we don't. I think the only thing that's probably close to it is that if there's a violation of federal law, they have the ability to attach particular property or to impound monies. But we certainly don't have that authority for an ordinance violation.
Yeah, Councilor Farrell, my understanding is that that level of forcing money to be put into an account only basically exists in terms of federal sanctions on like international banking. That's where they can directly access the money. Otherwise, it's basically the same process we're talking about here, which is you're going through a court process to say, you know, does this judge agree that this money should be transferred? And I don't, as far as I understand it, I don't think we've had a situation where a judge has said they have to pay and then they're not paying, except maybe in a case where there's a bankruptcy, in which case this is the type of solution to deal with that, because then you at least have a property that can be forced to be sold in a way that the city is going to get some money from it, right? I think that's my interpretation of the situation.
Except I would suggest in some cases where it goes on so long that the property isn't worth what the fines are.
Well,
there is an instance right now, I believe, where that's a possibility. So it's just...
Well, okay. So, I mean, almost every property in the city at this point, the property alone is worth like 600,000 minimum.
Well, there are some properties that where the fee is, if I'm not mistaken, in the millions. If you look at the time and $300 a day. So, and I don't want to get into that particular issue, but I mean,
well, we have also had situations previously where the properties have been worth less than what the city was having to spend. I mean, I forget if you were on this may have been before you were on the council, I can't recall, but there was a house that had to be hazard demolitioned, and we had to approve extra funding for that, and no one was willing to take the property after the previous owner had died. And by that point, the cost was in fact more than the property was worth, which is an unfortunate situation. But again, you know, there isn't a way for the city to go into somebody's bank account and grab the money if they're refusing to pay or haven't been ordered by a judge to pay or what have you.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from on this. I think this item before us is a significant step toward trying to address the concern that you have. And it's one of the tools that at least some municipalities have now gained access to, and I think it would be sensible for us to have that as well. I will go back to Councilor Baker now.
Just to clarify with Mr. Lee, the lien available though is only on property within the jurisdiction of the city, right? It's not, we don't have extraterritorial capacity. So this is a positive first step. I'm glad to support it. But I just want everyone not to understand that you're talking about a violator who has property within the city. They may have property elsewhere, bank accounts elsewhere. We can't reach those with this tool, but it is a tool that can have value. And so I still think we should have it.
I guess at minimum, it takes certain things off of the, you know, court process so that we can devote more resources to the ones where we can't do liens.
Yeah, and the criminal disposition can reach somebody wherever they are. That's not, as long as they're within the jurisdiction of the Commonwealth. That's not limited to Newton, as I recall, correct? So that option still exists, but this is, I think, a good intermediate opportunity for the city.
Councilor Malachy?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think this certainly is worth doing. And I recall I think it was Newtonville Ave property that you were referring to, where it had to be hazardous waste shipped to Canada, as I recall. I think one of the issues that came up with the treasurer and sort of concerns about avoiding that situation repeating in the future was kind of acknowledging that our seniority to claims, I guess, is after the IRS and the Department of Revenue, so that if the person stiffing us on fines or unpaid taxes or whatever is also behind on their federal or state taxes, we are kind of behind them in priority. So I'm wondering for Mr. Lee, so we have the right to put a lien on the property. Is there any limit to how fast or how slowly we can exercise the right, or are we basically waiting until the property changes hands in order to be able to put in a claim?
Well, you would lien the property, then it'd be committed to tax bill. If they don't pay it, then we could commence foreclosure.
Okay, so it would kind of get into the rotation that the treasurer or the assessors, I forget which department is actually implementing.
That's right.
Every year when they sort of file the notice to preserve the rights to collect, I think.
That's right, but then also I really don't want to discount just the effect of the lien itself on real property, because I understand what you're talking about with regards to the concern of the treasurer for that property that we had to demolish, but we're talking about apples and oranges here, right? That was a property that was abandoned. There was a ton of outstanding taxes, not fines, taxes.
Right.
And then also costs incurred by the city to do the demolition, which was the right thing to do because it was a safety hazard.
Right, it was going to slide down a hill.
And that was dealing with the owner didn't exist. So what we're really looking at here when we're talking about the fines, they're not folks that are indigent. We're not going after those kinds of people. It's people that are operating in the city in one way or the other. They can afford the fines. And I'm speaking generally, of course. I can't say in every instance I know it, but I'm not aware of one where that's been a concern. And when you're a property owner and you get a lien on your property that's recorded at the registry, it's meaningful. It affects how you can finance it. It affects what you can do with the property afterwards. So that alone by itself is a very meaningful, it would be a meaningful development in any enforcement process.
And my other question had to do with, was it just last night we were talking about the home rule petition to expand where police and fire personnel could live, and our appeal to the state for the home rule petition had expired over time. Do we have any sense of how long it will take the state to act on this request?
Assuming that the administration files it as quickly as it can, I'm not as familiar with the state session as I probably should be. I do know that generally speaking, when we file a home rule petition, the turnaround time from the state is on average about 8 to 10 months.
Okay. And that includes, so it goes through both houses of the legislature and the governor signing it?
Right, and then they do something similar to the council where they send it to one of their committees, houses of, Means and Ways, for example, and then they do their discussions and deliberations, edit it if they see fit, and then it goes through that process until it's approved, and then the governor signs it.
Yeah, well, yeah, we go through the committee first and then the whole legislature and Senate or whatever. Okay, great, thank you.
All right. Any further questions from the counselors on this? I think we've exhausted the topic. Thank you again, Mr. Lee, for being here to explain all this and for pursuing this. I think it's an important step. Counselor Oliver?
I'm happy to move approval.
All right, Counselor Oliver has moved approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And my camera's died, but I don't know why.
But you're an aye. Okay. I don't hear any opposition or abstentions, and that is 5-0 again. And that concludes our business for tonight, I believe.
Thank
So
you.
thank you all.
If I could say, appreciate the law department's and the mayor's initiative on these two
Yes.
enforcement items. So,
Thanks for staying on top of that and the developments there at the state level.
Thank you all.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.